On this week's Daz full scene, I'm going to do a ghost in a haunted house scene. So if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and maybe the notification bell. I do Daz tutorials about 3 times a week, so be sure to check back often to see all of my new content. So on these full scene setup videos, I generally use some of the techniques that I use in my other videos, and I kind of show you how to combine them together to create, a full scene using several different techniques. So be sure to look at the top of the screen. I'll post links to other videos as I do these techniques. So if I have to rush through anything, I'll link to those videos so you can check them out. And this one, since Halloween is tomorrow when this goes up, this is going to be the last of my scary scenes that I'm doing for the month of October, so I'm going to think of something else to do for November. So this is going to be the last one of the scary ones. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is get my haunted house environment set up, and also I'm going to link to all of the products that I use in this video in the description below, so be sure to check that out if you want to use any of these products in your own renders. You can get all of these. I believe everything I'm doing today is from the Daz3d store, so I'll link to those below if you want to check any of them out in the Daz store. Alright, let's go ahead and get our environment dropped in. So I'm going to go to Architecture, Interior. And here it is. This is our haunted house preload base. Let's go ahead and double click that to drop that in. Go, and this is a great kind of abandoned mansion environment. Like all of these things you see up here, these are all cobwebs. So really great spooky environment. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to create a ghostly figure at the top of the stairs, and then I'm going to have a human figure up here that's reacting to seeing the scary ghost. So the ghost model that I'm using is called Spectre, and again I'll link to that below, and I don't remember exactly where I have her stored, so I'm just going to type it in the search bar. There she is, yeah, Raw Spectre Female. So let's double click to drop her in. Alright, and there she is in the middle of the scene. So let's go ahead and drag her up to the top of the stairs where she's going to be. Make sure her feet line up with the floor. There we go. We're going to have her right about in the middle of that landing. And we're going to have her facing to our right. And then our human character is going to be standing up on this upper part. Move her a little. There we go. There we go. That's about right. Alright, let's go ahead and do our materials. So she has a range of materials to get some different effects. These two at the top are what I would call corporeal effects, where she looks like a solid ghost figure. These down here are more non-corporeal, where she's kind of semi-transparent. And this one she's kind of glowing. So I'm going to do the less transparent of the two semi-transparent materials. So let's go ahead and double click to apply that. There we go, and you can already see that reflected in the scene there. And I'm going to do kind of these glowing eyes. I do like the red eyes a lot, but I'm going to do that glowing eye effect. Alright, and then I'm going to, just to kind of drive home that Spectre look, I'm going to use the leg fade, which is going to make her bottom half kind of fade out. There we go. And I'm also going to hide her mouth, which basically hides her teeth and tongue, which again just drives home that transparency look. But we won't really notice that until I apply my poses, which we're going to do in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and do hair first, though. And I've already got the hair picked out. We're going to do long hair. And right now I have filter by context turned off, because this is, I believe, a Genesis 8 figure, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to be using a hair that was made for a Genesis 3. So I've got to turn off filter by context in order to be able to find it. And it's called Waif Hair. It is that one. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. I'm going to use Sorrow Hair. That's the one I want. Still same deal, though. That one's for a Genesis 3. So I got this dialog box letting me know that it's an unsupported item. So I'm going to let it know that that's for Genesis 3 female and that it is a hair shoulder length. There we go. And then accept, and that'll automatically fit that to our figure. There we go. Excellent. And let's see what different materials options we have for that. I'm going to turn filter by context back on. That should speed things up a little. I might try like a gray or a white hair. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Of course, these hairs we can always change later, but I just want to kind of get what I think I might want. Let's try that one. So if you have the option of MDL and RSL, MDL is for Eerie, and it also has the Eerie icon, this kind of cube icon in the bottom left. So if you're rendering as Eerie, as I always do, be sure you always choose that MDL or the Eerie material. There we go, I like that already. All right, let's go ahead and do her clothing, and I had an outfit already picked out as well, which we're going to customize a little bit. Actually, I'll just type it in because I know the name of the one we're going to use. There we go. Wasteland Mama outfit is what we're going to do. And this one was made for a post-apocalyptic scene. So think something like one of the Fallout games is kind of what they're going for. Like she's got the gun belt there and everything, and the hiking boots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the boots as well as the socks. So there we go, so we can see that her legs are kind of fading out. I'm also going to delete this bandolier. There we go, so now it just looks kind of like an old tattered house dress that she's wearing, which is what I'm going for. Now let's go ahead and do her pose, and I believe that there are some poses included with the Spectre. Or Ghost. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. Alright, and we're going to do this one with her right hand up. There we go. And I'm going to have to move her hand a little bit because I already know that it's conflicting with the dress. So the way that I'm going to do this is something that I touched on very briefly in one of my earlier videos about posing. I think it was the last one that I did. And I'm going to use the positional controls to just kind of drag this out a little bit. There we go. That is just about perfect. That's where I want it. And I'm going to rotate her a little bit more just to get her a little bit more finely positioned. And of course this we can also fix later as we get our human character figured out. There we go. Excellent. Alright, now let's go ahead and get our human figure dropped in. Alright, and the one that I'm using today is Teen Kaylee 8. So we're going to drop her in. It's going to put her down there again, so I've got to get her into position once she gets loaded in. Alright, there she is. Let's get her into position. I'm going to have to move up a little bit to see exactly where her feet are. Yeah. And let's get her hair and materials dropped in. Alright, for hair, I'm going to use marigold hair. There we go. And I'm just going to leave that on the default brown color for right now. I don't think I'm going to end up changing that. Alright, then let's do the materials for our figure. Got an Eerie, feminine. Now we're going for kind of an innocent look, so I'm not going to do any really heavy makeup on her. And she's also going to be relatively modestly dressed, so let's go ahead and get that wardrobe out of the way. There we go, we're doing urban casual outfit. There we go, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this bandana, or the beanie. I don't really like that with the hair. It kind of conflicts, and it's not worth it to me to really fine-tune that and fix it. There we go, we are almost finished with her. Let's just go ahead and get her into position. Let's rotate her towards the ghost, and I'm going to move her a little bit closer as well. I want them kind of close to each other, right at the top of the stairs. There we go. And then we're going to get her a pose and an expression. There we go. I'm not entirely certain what this pose was originally supposed to be, but we're going to repurpose it for a screaming in terror pose. Maybe that was what that was supposed to be originally, but I'm not entirely certain. Alright, let me zoom in where you can see her face a little, and we'll go ahead and pick out a good facial expression. And I've got a very good round of facial expressions down here. And there's a particular category I have that's labeled as surprise, and those also work very good for fear. So that's what we're going to go with. Here we are. Yeah, expressive faces. There we go. So that one is a surprise face, but it also works as a really good screaming in terror face. There we go. Yes, that's excellent. Great, love it. All right, and let's just make her look down towards our ghost a little bit more. So I'm going to select her head and just bend that down a touch, and she's already pretty much looking in her direction. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll just leave it there for now. Again, we can always tweak that a little bit later. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is get my cameras dropped in. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 shots with this one. I'm going to do a behind the Spectre camera that's going to be mainly focused on our human figure. And then I'm also going to do one behind here that's mainly focused on our ghost. So I'm going to create 2 cameras. We'll call the first one, let me see, we'll call this one Ghost Cam. And then the second one, we'll call it Girl Cam. Excellent. Alright, so we're going to switch our view to our Ghost Cam, and we're going to point this one at the ghost. So it's going to be behind the girl. There we go. So I want to have a where I can get kind of both of them in frame so we know that the girl is still there. But we're going to be mainly focused on the ghost. I'm going to do Girl Cam, same kind of a deal. We're just going to be behind our ghost now. Excellent. There we go. That is, yeah, it's about perfect. Alright, now, let me see. I'm going to, while I have my cameras, I'm going to go ahead and get my depth of field set. So I'm going to go to depth of field on, and I don't want a super extreme effect on this. So right now you can see the depth of field planes are very, very close together. The closer those are together, the more extreme your defocus is going to be. So if I left them this close together and put it on my figure, she would be pretty much perfectly in focus, and the ghost would be so obscured you wouldn't even be able to tell what it was. It would pretty much just look like a blurry blob. And especially as close as it is to her, that is going to accentuate that effect. Notice when as you zoom it out, those naturally get wider, and I think I'm going to leave that about where it is. I'm actually going to widen that just a touch, so it's going to be a less extreme defocus effect. Alright, and let's select my Ghost Cam. We're going to do the same thing with this one. Turn depth of field on. There we go. My focal distance is going to be about right on her too. I'm going to leave her hand just a tad out of focus, but you probably won't even be able to tell when I look at that though. There we go. Alright, so right now everything is apparently lit, which is a little bit misleading. We're actually not lit at all right now. In fact, if I go to eerie view, we'll be able to tell that. There we go. Yeah, so just a little bit of ambient light, but it's actually very, very dark. So I just have it, if you don't have any lights in your scene, when you're on texture shaded, it will automatically light everything by default. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to put in a primitive. So I'm going to do a very simple lighting setup for this. I'm going to use my primitive to get my ambient lighting, and then maybe 1 or 2 spotlights. So I'm going to go ahead and get my primitive set up first. So I've done a video on this before, so I'm going to kind of hurry through it. Alright, so I've got my emissive plane in place, and I'm going to go ahead and change the color on that, the emission color. I'm going to shift that into the blue to give it kind of a nighttime or a moonlight effect. And I'm going to go to my Ghost Cam, and let's go back into eerie view, and I'm going to start bumping up my lumens on that. Or actually, I'm just going to punch in a couple of numbers, because I did a test on this scene the other day, and I think I ended up leaving it at 200,000. I'm not sure if my size is exactly right of that plane, but I'm going to go ahead and try this. So I'm just putting my lumens at 200,000, and I'm going to go into eerie preview. There we go. Yeah, not bad so far. I can actually deal with a little bit more. Let's try 225. Maybe 300. There we go. That's a little better. And we're going to add a couple of spotlights that'll light this up a little bit better. I also may fix my f-stop. She is a little bit blurrier than I would like. So I'm on my Ghost Cam right now, and let me select my Ghost Cam and go to Cameras. And I'm just going to increase my f-stop a few notches. Let's try 30. There we go. Just a little bit less blur there. She's a little bit more in focus. I think I like that look a lot better. Yeah, that's excellent. Alright, let me check my other camera. There we go. Also pretty good. Her front half isn't as well lit as it could be, but I might take care of that with a spotlight in a moment. Alright. So, actually, let me see. Oh, I've got my plane way over there. That's probably why that isn't showing up very well, or why it isn't lighting things very evenly. Let's try moving that over here. I'm probably going to have to bump my lumens back down now. I didn't realize it was that far away. Alright, let's check my girl cam again. We'll see how crazy bright that is now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that is way better lit. And actually, I think I like that. I thought I'd have to bump it down some, but I think that's going to work out pretty well. Let me just check on my ghost cam. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Yeah, that's not too much. Alright, let's go back to perspective view and texture shaded. Yeah, and whenever you're doing the moonlight scene, you would think that you would want a very extreme, like a dark blue on this, but I find that the pale blue works a little bit better, so I usually leave it on very, very light blue. And I might, darken it up or lighten a little bit to get a specific look, but generally I leave it pretty light. Alright, let's go ahead and do 2 spotlights. I'm going to call one of them Ghost Light. It's not technically a ghost light, but it's going to be a light for our ghost. There we go. Now all of the lights turn out. So it didn't do that before because it doesn't consider this plane a light. But now that I dropped an actual light in, then all the lights drop out, so I'll be able to see kind of a preview of what my light's going to look like. Alright, this one we're going to call Girl Light. And let's go ahead and get these set up. I'm going to do my ghost light first. And we're going to treat this kind of like a backlight or a rim light. But instead of putting it behind my figure, I'm kind of going to put it to the side. But I'm going to use this mainly just to create kind of a little bit of extra lighting, like a halo around our character, like you usually get with a backlight. But I'm going to try this to the side. I got a pretty cool effect with this when I did my test earlier, so we'll see what I can do with that now. Alright, let's select our ghost light under lights. And I'm going to give our ghost kind of a yellowish glow, kind of a golden hue. There we go. Let's put my light geometry at disk. Height and width at 55. Oops, two-sided off, render emitter off. Alright, now let's do a preview of that, and we'll start adjusting our lumens as we need to. Alright, so we can't really see anything yet because it's turned down so low, so I'm going to bump that up a touch. It's probably going to be way too much. Nope, can't really see anything just yet, so let's go up a little bit more. There we go, that's a little bit better. And I also bumped the intensity up to over 130%, so that basically just makes the color a little bit more vivid. So now we're getting kind of a golden glow on her left side from our perspective. Alright, now let's do the girl cam. I'm going to go back to texture shaded, so this moves a little bit faster. Oops, not girl cam, girl light, sorry. And I tried a couple of different things with this one, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I think I ended up going with a reddish glow on this one last time, which I couldn't really explain where that red light was coming from in the context of this image and the story behind it, but I just kind of liked the mood that it gave off. It was, it just kind of had like that fear-based feel to it. So I may try that, or I may just try a plain white or a blue light like I would normally do for a moonlight scene, but we're just going to experiment and see what we can come up with. So I'm going to make sure girl light is selected on my lighting tab. Let's go ahead and try that with the red one first. And just like the blue, just a relatively pale red. Going to be a little bit more vivid than the blue was. Let's point that right at her back. There we go. That should be good. Alright, let's do disk geometry. Set the height and width at 55 as I normally do. Two-sided off, render emitter off. And let's go ahead and bump up the lumens a bit and bring down the temperature just a touch. Shift it a little more into the red spectrum. Let's go to our girl cam now. Let's preview that and see what it looks like. Alright, no change just yet, so I'm going to start bumping up my lumens on that one until we can see a little bit of a rim light start to appear. Alright, now I'm starting to see a little bit of an effect, especially around her arms. Not as extreme an effect as I got before when I was doing the test render on this, but I think I like this better. It's a little bit more subtle. So I may bump that up just a little more, and we'll probably leave it at there. Let's see, what am I on? About 30,000. Let's try like 30. We'll try 40,000. There we go. And just to see what it looks like, I'm going to try that with a different color. I'm going to try that with kind of a little bit deeper blue and see what kind of a feel that gives us. I actually think I like that one a little bit better. I'm going to bump the temperature back up into the blue spectrum. And let's try repositioning that light just a little bit. I'll bump that a little bit closer. And her left arm is already pretty well lit, so I'm going to get that up a little bit towards her right arm, I think. This is moving really slowly right now, so I need to switch back to texture shaded view. The more complex your geometry is, and as you start adding more and more lights to your image, it's going to start moving a lot slower. Let's try this. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Now I'm starting to get a little bit more of an extreme glow, and I think I'm going to leave that where it is, and we'll go ahead and do a render in a moment. Still getting a little bit of an extreme blur on this one, so just like I did with my other camera, I'm going to increase my f-stop a little, which is going to make that a little bit less extreme. I ended up putting that one on 30. Let's try this one on 35. There we go, that's a little better. And our human figure also feels a little bit far away, and but I like the placement of the camera though. So one thing you can make her feel closer to the camera is by changing the focal length. Right now it's set at 65 millimeter, and as we increase that, it's going to make her feel closer because we're narrowing our field of view. If you go the other direction, it'll go to a wider angle, and it's going to make her feel further away. So if you've ever shot with an interchangeable lens camera before, basically that's what we're doing. We're changing the focal length. There we go, that's pretty good. And a little bit wider on the f-stop. Let's try 40. There we go. Yeah, I think I like that one pretty well. I'm going to leave that there for right now. We'll do our renders and we'll see how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and hit the render button on these two photos, and then we'll check back on them in a few minutes. And here we are with our finished rendered images. The first one is of our ghost cam, and I ended up changing just a couple of things after I shut off my recording last time. I did my first render and I wasn't really happy with it. And I'll go ahead and flip back to that one and in a moment and show you what I changed. The main thing is that it was just a little bit overexposed for my taste. It was a little bit too bright. So I went in and changed the exposure settings. Under tone mapping, I just changed the exposure from the default 13 to a 15. So I bumped it up 2 spots, making it a little bit darker. And I forgot to put the facial expression on our ghost. So I went on ahead and did that, gave her like an open mouth, kind of a screaming facial expression, which I like a whole lot better. Let me go ahead and flip to that other one, and I'll show you what it looked like with the other exposure setting. And that's also without the expression. So that one was just way too bright. I wanted to make it a little bit creepier and a little moodier, and having her that well lit just wasn't really working out for me. One other thing that I did is I zoomed the camera in a little bit and I widened the angle, much like I did on the other camera. So the exact same thing, just to make the ghost appear a little bit closer while still getting my female character in screen. Alright, so I'll flip back to the other one more time. So there you go. You can see the difference, and I definitely like that darker look, and the facial expression really adds a lot to it as well. Let me go ahead and switch to the other camera. I'll show you that one. There we go. That one I'm also very happy with. You got the glow from the backlight, which frames our character nicely. A little bit of the defocused ghost figure there. The female figure looks great in this one. I love that facial expression. I think it really captures the fear. All in all, very, very happy with this one. I really don't think there's anything that I would do differently. I really like that one a lot. So that'll about do it for this video. Don't forget to hit the like button if you got something out of this, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. As I'm recording this, I am 1 subscriber away from 200, so help me get to that 200 mark. And be sure to check in the description below if you want to know what products that I've used. And that'll do it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.